Hey there! Today I finally share my May planner setup for this year. Because April and also May was full of events, I had no time for finishing this video until now. But now I have time again to move on and decided to share my May setup all through its late, so this way you could see it as an inspiration for your monthly setups in future. So let's get started! First, I start with an A5 sized wide and thick paper and a tree stencil. I'm going to align both because in my case the stencil fits my A5 sized paper perfectly. Next, I secure the paper and the stencil to my map with painter's tape. While doing that, I make sure that the masking tape which secures the paper is covered by the stencil so that there will be no additional white areas in the design. If your stencil doesn't fit the paper perfectly, you can either place the paper in the middle if the stencil is larger, or if it's smaller, start in one corner and align the design of the stencil so that the design is created in partial steps. Now the fun part begins and I start coloring with my ink blending tool and a yellow pigment ink pad. After the yellow area was done, I tried to use one of my orange color shades to build up the blend, but I quickly switched to another one because I liked it better in this combination. Like I did with the yellow, I colored in the orange area. For this cover page I decided on a forced stencil along with a yellow, orange, magenta blend. Finally, I also wanted to add a pink or magenta color on top, but I found this color was not bright enough, so again I switched to a similar color shade, but this time from my pigment ink pads. As you can see here, this time there's really a big difference even to see in the video. Even if I think both shades are useful to have, in this case I was very happy that I had this ink pad too. The color was very intense, so I had to do more blending, but because of the intensity and how wet the paint was, I could spread it better and therefore faster. Next, I blended the color into the orange and later I also went back to get a nice result. The idea I had was to represent the sunrise, which in my opinion fits spring very well, but maybe this was not the best color combo to go with. I was very happy with the result, even if I would use this color scheme more in harvest season. And here's the reveal! Anyway, after removing the masking tape, I not only needed to clean my stencil, I also wanted to use the rest of the ink which was sitting on top. Therefore, I tried a few different techniques. The first one was simply to flip the stencil and try to get a print on another piece of paper. Somehow, this was not the best idea, because although it worked, the result was not that good. So I gave it another try and decided to spray some water on the ink of the stencil and repeat the same process again. And well, this way I got a really good result. I'm not sure what to do with this paper yet, but even if I might have no ideas, at least I can turn it into a card anytime. Now let's go back to the cover page. To make the scene complete, I sketched out the bottom of the forest and the deer standing in front of the trees as well as in the middle of the cover. Even if it suits the scene very well, it again makes the scene feel more like it's in harvest season. In addition, I somehow missed filming coloring in the deer and the bottom scene, but basically I grabbed a water-based black marker to fill it in. I also decided on a lettering placed on top and therefore I used an orange acrylic marker. In my opinion, the orange lettering didn't stand out enough against the background, so I used the black marker again and placed a black line around it. Now I move on to my monthly planner inserts for May. One note here, if you wanna make these for your own, I have a full YouTube video on my channel explaining on how I make these planner inserts, so check it out if this is interesting for you. At first, I start with highlighting all the dates of the month for aesthetic reasons. This time I decided on boxes drawn with an orange water-based marker. In the beginning I used a stencil to draw these boxes, but later I used my dot grid pattern underneath my monthly insert to color in the boxes. I repeated this process for the whole calendar. Next, I added a lettering to the side of my calendar, using the same marker, and I also added the number of the month. Last month I decided to color block in some boxes which I wanted to highlight, and it worked out pretty well, so I used this method again here. In addition, I also used the same marker to highlight the areas where I'm going to place the headers for each row. This will be the place for the days of the week which I'm going to letter on top. Moving on, I also thickened the strokes of the main lettering on the side. Later, I also added drop shadows to the lettering with the black marker again. Using the highlighter again, I also sectioned off the areas on the side and below my calendar, which give me space to write out my notes and thoughts. On top, I placed my headers with a black pen, and this time I also changed the order in a way that felt, at least for this month, more useful for me. The next step was to use my planner icon stamps and mark different things for a quick overview in the calendar. To make writing in the first things easier, I also used a stencil to draw in some boxes for my tasks. In the end, I flipped the page and added this week header on top with the orange marker. As always, I used my tracker stamp twice, which helps me stay on track with all the habits that are important to me. In addition, I also highlighted the tracker header. That way, it's a bit more organized for a quick overview. This process I repeated with my other sections, but this time I wrote the headers by myself and didn't use a stamp because it should be a space to write in any notes and to-dos. Finally, I highlighted the headers as well, and I was done with my setup. Thanks for watching! If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content like this. See you next time. Bye!